So when they say, does he feel betrayed? They said, no, he feels betrayed. Because if he doesn't feel betrayed, he will stop crying about this ministerial thing. El-Rufai has been crying about this ministerial thing.
All right.
He's been wailing. He's been crying. He's been jackborrowing about this ministerial thing. So it's time for him to cease the cry.
All right.
And
As I started, it is the beginning of the opening of cans of worms. Your take on this story?
Okay. Politicians will say a lot of things. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is not the same Nasir El-Rufai that was boldly supporting a Muslim ticket leading up to the elections. It's not the same Nasir El-Rufai that was part of those that took the central bank to court over the Naira policy. Is it not Nasir El-Rufai that casted, many aspersions against Peter Obi? Today, Nasir El-Rufai's son is now saying, Peter Obi is not such a bad person. Now, everybody's gravitating towards the SDP. Is this not the same Nasir El-Rufai that said at some point he was never going to leave the APC? So he's gone through how many parties now? From the PDP to CPC to APC, now SDP. Anyway, he's sworn that he's never going to go back to the PDP, but the PDP started all of this for him. But in all of those things, one thing is consistent. There's a P in all of those parties. You do the math and tell me what the P is, watching me this morning. I don't take politicians seriously. I'm happy that President Muhammadu Buhari has come to clarify what he said, that yes, he might have given him his blessings as he claimed, but he's going to support his own political party till the end. Secondly, all of this is somebody that feels hurt. He feels he worked for President Tinubu, and President Tinubu didn't pay him back. So when they say, does he feel betrayed? They said, no, he feels betrayed. Because if he doesn't feel betrayed, he will stop crying about this ministerial thing. El-Rufai has been crying about this ministerial thing.
All right.
He's been wailing. He's been crying. He's been jackborrowing about this ministerial thing. So it's time for him to cease the cry.
All right.
And that's why, as part of the crying and the wailing and the jackborrowing, he's saying he knows people that paid for ministerial position. They got to be ministers. You did not get to be ministers.
You didn't get to be
Go and face your political struggle with the SDP.
All right. Dr. Abati, you're taking
Okay, a number of issues here. I already wrote an extended essay on this subject on Tuesday, back page column, in these days. So whatever I say is an additional comment, since I already wrote a long essay. And what are those additional comments? It's as follows. One, El-Rufai, Nasir El-Rufai, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, is saying that he knows those who paid to be ministers. I would like him to name those persons who paid to be ministers, because it's music to our ears as Nigerians, we long-suffering Nigerians, that people pay to become ministers of the Federal Republic. This is a point we have often made, that look, when people are appointed to positions, the leadership recruitment process should be based on meritocracy, should be based on ability. It should not be based on cash. Now, if they pay to be ministers, who gave money to whom? Who collected the money? Because this is a direct accusation, an assault on the integrity of President Tinubu personally, and also an assault on the integrity of all the serving members of the Federal Cabinet of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I expect the ministers to speak up. I expect also President Tinubu to tell us whether indeed it is a norm for people to pay to become federal ministers. That is one point. The second point is that Nasir El-Rufai is now crying, woof, 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 woof. This is the same man who 3 years ago, on the pages of Leadership newspaper, you can Google it, he says that he will remain in APC till he dies.
Yes, he said so.
That story is there.
Yes.
Now, what was his argument at that time? He said he was one of the 37 original members that formed the APC. The APC, you know, of course, is a special purpose vehicle. at the time it was created in 2013, 2014, bringing together, the aggrieved members of the PDP who call themselves New PDP, led by Senator Bukola Saraki, the CPC, the ACN, led by President Tinubu, some faction of the AMPP. They all came together, and their mission at that time was to remove President Jonathan from power. It's this nemesis, that we're seeing in terms of the disemboweling of the All Progressives Congress. That's the second point. The third point is that Malam El-Rufai is saying that he didn't beg for the position. I think he's right on that score, because President Tinubu promised him publicly at an event in Kaduna. He said at that time that he wanted to go for further studies abroad, right? And the president said, you are going nowhere, I'm going to make you a minister. The only man who was so honored publicly. And then at the end of the day, they came and said security reports did not favor him. His own friend and former partner and brother and colleague is a national security advisor. So how did, under Malam Nuhu Ribadu's watch, they arrived at the conclusion that Nasir El-Rufai is a risk, a security risk to Nigeria? I think fair is fair. On that score, he has every reason to be aggrieved, to be angry. My next point is about this coalition, this toing and froing. He has been meeting with all kinds of disgruntled politicians here, either in Lagos or in other places. I do not think that this idea of a grand coalition that they are putting together, I don't think is likely to work. Again, because of Malam El-Rufai's own limitations, and also because of the ambitions of all these parties who say they want to take over power from President Tinubu. They should know that President Tinubu is an old fox in this game. Somebody came on this program and called him master of the game. He's not going to fold his arms and allow people to just push him out of power. All of us must be realistic in that regard. But I think that the drama, the disemboweling, the revelations are useful for the political education of many Nigerians who just listen to the sensation and do not know anything beyond the headlines.
All right, just a few more words to add to this, and that is that he actually said it's the party like food. If it's like food, that he actually said that to the APC. And when he was asked that, was he afraid of being expelled by the party, and was that a motivation for him leaving the party to join the SDP, he actually rejoined, saying, actually, expulsion would have been better. It would have saved him the headache of this journey he's had to make. And that shows the deep-seated disgruntlement of Malam Nasir El-Rufai with the APC. He's continued to maintain that the reason for his grouse is largely because the APC has moved away from its progressive ideology and is now more focused on, he talks about it, personal gain, personal, favors, and the fact that people are rewarded just, boy no boy, someone knows somebody, and that those who actually worked for the party and are being maligned, are forgotten, are left behind, and that's one of his biggest grounds. He took us down memory lane with that interview, talking about the reasons why he supported the current president, one of which was that some Muslims from the Southwest had come to him to say that they felt like they had been sidelined in the grand scheme of things when it came to leadership in Nigeria. The second part of it being that, in the spirit of fairness, the last election also have been zoned to the south, and so he had to support the president. But following that, things have then gone downhill, of course, with that infamous pulling out of his name from the ministerial screening as a result of what had been cited as security reports, which, by the way, we haven't really heard much about that since then. But The issue now, of course, as we look forward to 2027, even though some people had opined that it's too early to begin to talk about 2027, but I think with what's playing out in the political space in Nigeria currently, the conversation is certainly rife. We're seeing a number of political figures making political moves and publicly declaring as to which party or what party they're going to align with. SDP seems to be a leader in this, and you can understand why. The PDP is in disarray currently, and they're trying to get their acts together, so it doesn't look very appealing. And then the PDP within itself have some strong people who I'm not sure how easy it would be to relinquish their ambition to becoming presidential candidates of the party. The Labour Party on its own is also currently facing internal disputes, and so it's not very attractive. And of course, they also had their leading presidential candidate in the last election, and so these figures who are perhaps looking for the top job in 2027 are looking away to these other parties, and SDP is becoming a lot more attractive. I think it's important to note that he mentioned that he did have some godfathers, but he would not want to mention their names. So one principal person that he speaks to before making any critical political decision is former President Muhammadu Buhari. That also speaks to the lingering influence of the former president, especially in the north, and the fact that he's still being consulted. He said he's a statesman now, he's no longer a politician, and so he will just leave, but he has affirmed his role as an APC, bona fide APC member. He also talked about Pastor Tunde Bakari, and that's a name that perhaps we should maybe look at come 2027. Is he going to play any role in the political activities of 2027? Because he had said it was actually Pastor Tunde Bakari who dragged him or who brought him into the APC at the time. So what role would he play in 2027? Does this make the SDP a stronger party? What does this mean for opposition in Nigeria and their challenge to the lead to the APC come 2027? And this is what a number of people have said, that if this coalition doesn't work as a result of the personal ambitions of the individuals involved, it might just again pave a smooth sailing ride to Aso Rock for the next 4 years for a second term for the APC. Because when these parties are in disarray, in terms of all these opposition parties, it only makes it stronger for the APC to have a clear, a smooth ride come 2027. So they need to get their acts together. Perhaps people have to put their personal ambitions aside in the interest of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. But I laugh at that because we all know what that is at the end of the day. A lot of these leaders, unfortunately, put themselves first ahead of nation building. So let's see how that plays out. Could this be perhaps an indication that the APC is about to get another smoother journey into the Aso Rock as a result of the political shenanigans happening in all these other opposition parties? Well, we watch. Let's move on to our next story this morning. And one of Nigeria's leading financial institutions, Access Bank PLC.
Yes, by court of law, justice in Nigeria. What is he going back to do against this gentleman?
Yes. Justice John Tsosho has come out to say that he withdrew from the case of Mazin Kanu because of his life. I was threatened. And secondly, he said he was offered so many bribes to unjustly incarcerate Mazin Kanu. But he says his conscience will never let him sleep if he does that. Welcome, Ralph. What's your reaction?
Yeah, thank you so much. If you ask me, I will tell you that the same Justice Tsosho, the same Binta and Yako, they are all on the same, let me say, legal vessel together, conveying all of them to their destination. And I will never hesitate to tell you that Justice Tsosho is actually saving himself from disgrace and what? Scandal. Because if he actually comes or goes to the court to see Nnamdi Kanu, shame, disgrace will be John or Justice Tsosho's name. Why? We actually saw what happened to Binta Yako. A bigger shame, a bigger legal disgrace one could ever fathom in the history of Nigeria. A chief justice, a female chief justice that was presiding over a case of a particular man, a certain Igbo man, all of a sudden become an accused on a global framework. The whole world we are watching a situation whereby Mazin Nnamdi Kanu has actually made a disgrace of a presiding chief judge by name Binta Yako, whom he actually advised to to recuse, to rescue himself, to abscond and leave his case, that she herself, Binta Nyako, could not ever have what it takes within the umbrella of law, justice, international jurisprudence to jail Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. You cannot jail me. He still reiterated that Binta Nyako is playing with her legal integrity. And what are we seeing today? Binta Nyako actually absconded, leaving Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case till today. Now there come along a man of justice, a man of dignity, pedigree, and integrity by name John Tsosho. Justice John Tsosho actually rescued himself. You know what? He said he's not going to handle that case. He was bribed. He was bought over by some persons to actually jail Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Now, he began to ask himself question. Jailing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu on what ground? Is it jailing him wrongly? Someone that has been vindicated, someone that has been set free by courts, appeal courts, Supreme Court. The judgment of those courts, are they not going to hold? He actually threatened that if he could be allowed to attend to that case by his own conscience, he is going to affirm the judgment of the previous justices in favor of Nnamdi Kanu. So affirmation of their previous justices is what is going to give the sponsors of this man that actually respected himself the infantry and impetus to go after him, either to buy him or to make sure they finish his legal career. So now John Tsosho actually became a man, a matured man. He is in this legal practitioner that he will on no reason in any ramification handle Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case wrongly. He stated that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was unjustly or wrongly renditioned from Nairobi, Kenya into Nigeria, that is not going to affirm what the whole world has actually been seeing as an injustice meted to a particular race, Igbo race. He said he's not going to handle Mazi Nnamdi Kanu case. He said, be it over his dead body, though we are not wishing him dead, but he said he's not going to do that. That Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was at least, set free 2 times